Hey there, it's Jen and I'm back with another layout for Hip Kit Club. Today we are supposed to be doing a grid layout with using a cut file. I actually cut this July cut file. This is supposed to be a background, but I cut it really small. I'm going to use it as a stencil to create part of my grid, and then also incorporating some PL cards, which I have here, and I love incorporating these on my layout, so I'm excited to do that. And also we're going to customize these white puffy alpha stickers, so I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So let's go ahead and get started.
So I'm going to cut my photos apart. I printed two 3x4s on a 4x6 canvas, and I'm going to cut them down to 3x3. I could have printed them at 3x3, but I was doing it from my phone and it was easier for me to just do it that way. I've been using my Epson PictureMate PM400 lately and I love it. I'm also going to punch some of the PL cards into squares. I love that dot grid right there, and I've been wanting to use it since I saw it, and I actually don't end up using it on this layout, but it does inspire some of it. So I'm also going to cut this little kind of leaf frame from this card, and that's where my journaling will end up going. So our challenge is to create a grid layout, and I just wanted to mention that, and kind of wanted to show you that a grid doesn't always mean like 3 across and 3 down, and it doesn't have to be quite so lined up. This is a little bit of a loose grid where I'm going to put things spaced apart kind of equally, but the grid isn't all in a line. So it's still a grid, but it's just a little bit different. So I'm also going to punch this piece out. I will end up cutting that up later. I know I want to fussy cut from some of those cards that I just put above the layout, so that is my plan for those. And now I'm going to kind of play around with some arrangements using these pieces. The photos are a bit larger than everything else, and so I'm not exactly sure what I want to do yet, but I do know I want my title to be Hot Tub, and I decided to stack the words so that I could make it into a square and it can be one of the grid pieces. And I'm going to put the word summer going up the side of it. So my daughter and her cousins have been hot tubbing a ton lately because my brother and sister-in-law got a hot tub and they live within walking distance, and so they've been going and hanging out in the hot tub all summer, which I think is funny because it's hot outside, but if they don't have a pool, then a hot tub's the next best thing, right? So to kind of customize these letters, I'm using some alcohol markers. These are Shin Han Touch Twin Pro markers. You can use Copic markers. You can use like Bic or Sharpie permanent markers to do this. Any permanent marker will do, but I just chose some colors that kind of matched those dots, and I'm just coloring these here. So I am also going to color the word summer because it's kind of more of a greeny yellow, and that Hello Sunshine PL card is a little bit more of a warm yellow. So I'm just going to color the word summer with a warmer yellow. I'm trying to find another color to do the word or to do the letter T in, and I thought about doing orange, but this orange was more yellowy and I decided to use that to color the word summer. So now I'm pulling out some more of my markers that I have. I just have a bunch of random ones. Some are like recollections. I mostly use alcohol markers to change the color of things like this, and so it doesn't really matter to me if they're super high quality, although I do a little bit of Copic coloring occasionally. So I just colored it with kind of a teal color, and now I'm going to do some of my stenciling. So I'm kind of thinking about where I want the photos to go first, so I know where I want to put the stenciling, and still playing around with it a bit before I kind of decide here. And I just at this point was like, I just need to get started on this. So I pulled out a couple of inks that I had in my stash, and I'm using a life-changing brush from Picket Fence just to blend some color onto like through the stencil. And I think I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but this stencil is meant to be a background cut file, and I just shrunk it down to 3x3 so it would be the size of my photos so it could take up one of the grid spaces. And I'm using two colors that can kind of blend into each other. So I'm using Volcano Lake, which is kind of the same color as the background, my grid mat there. And then I'm using a more blue color below it. So they kind of blend into each other. And I really like the way that turned out. I didn't go all the way to the edges just so it kind of fades out. And I think it looks really pretty. So now I'm kind of playing around a little bit more with the placement of things, and I kind of like the idea of stacking the photos like this with some of the inking on the sides. And I'm going to fussy cut out, sorry you can't see it, but one of the PL cards that has a floral cluster on it, and it says Summer Vibes. And I'm almost done cutting it here. I'm just using some nice fine tip scissors. I like fussy cutting things. I know a lot of people don't, but I switched the photos so that I could overlap that fussy cut piece onto the photo. In the top photo, my niece was sitting there and I didn't want to cover her face, but in the bottom photo, she's sitting more in the hot tub, so I can overlap it more easily. So I'm going to go ahead and put my title down just loosely right there because I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go, but since these are these puffy stickers, they don't stick immediately, like they kind of stick, and so I'm just kind of lightly placing them so I can move it later if I want to. Then I decide to add a third little area of this ink blending through this stencil, and I'm just doing that the same way that I did it the other two times. And I like that there's now a nice trio, a visual triangle, if you will, of these little dots, and it just fills in the spaces and it's really pretty. I really love it. I think I'll definitely do that again. So I'm kind of struggling with where to put these dots and where to put that Summer Paradise square. They just feel like they don't fit in, and so I decided to cut the Summer Paradise card up. I'm going to cut out the tree, the palm tree, and I'm also going to cut out that half circle with the words on it, and you'll see that here too. So I'm going to put the tree next to my title. It just kind of makes it, I don't know, it makes it feel more like a designed title than just some letter stickers. And then I'm going to use the Summer Paradise as kind of a half circle poking out from the photo just to fill in that space a little bit there. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to save you from watching me do this, is cut up the flowers from a 4x6 card, and I will use some of those on here as well. At this point, I thought it was a good idea to go ahead and stick some stuff down, and you can see that I'm making it into a grid by spacing things equally, but you can still overlap stuff like I did with that floral piece, or the floral bordered square, and with this little piece that I'm sticking on now, you can still overlap things and have it be a grid. So it's just a loose style, and I really like it. So I put that one a little bit too high, and the foam tape that I used is not very forgiving, and so I kind of ripped it a little bit when I pulled it up, but I'm going to use it anyway, and it ends up working out just fine. So I wanted it to be a little bit lower so there's space for this little half circle, and I'll end up stamping my date in that half circle space. I thought about putting a flower in there, but then most of them covered up the words, so I decided not to. I'm moving over my title just a little bit and making it be where it's gonna end up. I'm making it more precise rather than just throwing it down this time. And I'm gonna put down that palm tree. I'm gonna pop up the tree part and glue down the trunk part and kind of tuck it underneath the photo. So I like doing that sometimes where part of the die cut is popped up and part of it isn't. So I'm just writing my journaling now into that little square. This was the perfect little home for the journaling, and I just talked about them hot tubbing in the summer all the time. And now I'm going to create a little cluster of florals beneath the Hello Sunshine there. So now I've got kind of the cluster around the journaling and then the one to the left hand side, and now I'm adding some more here. And I'm going to pop up some of the pieces and glue down some of the other pieces. And I definitely cut more than I use, but I can use them on something else, so it's not a big deal. Once you start cutting up one 4x6 card. It's not like you're going to probably use the rest of it as a whole. So I just cut them all out. I also end up adding just one little piece to this cluster on the left. And then I'm going to add a few pieces popped up around that frame of the journaling. And I like the way that ends up looking. It just gives it a little bit more interest. And that's where I was trying to put some flowers in that Summer Vibes half circle, but it doesn't end up working out. That's okay. Right there to the left, those are my sticky dots. Those are from ThermoWeb. It's like a whole sheet of the little dots like that you get on a dot runner, but it's easy to just kind of like place your die cut on it and peel it up, and you have all the dots on the back without having to get your dot runner everywhere. So I like using those sometimes. So I'm going to stamp my date now in this little space, and it's a very small space, so I'm using my smaller roller date stamp. And there that is. And now I'm realizing that this is just very white, which I could leave it just very white, but I felt like it needed something at the top. It's a little more bottom heavy the way that I positioned this. And so I decided to use this yellow patterned paper from, I think is it Bella Boulevard? I think so. Anyway, it came in the main kit, and I'm going to use that as a border at the top. And then I decided to pull out the borders, and I think they came in the embellishment kit. I can't remember, but I'm going to use one of the little tassel borders just underneath it, and it kind of hangs down and connects everything together because it kind of overlaps the title word there. I'm going to rough up the edges with my fingernail of that paper because I like to do that. And now I'm going to add some enamel dots. I really like these colors, and they matched it really well. At least the kind of mint, aqua, and kind of peachy color matched it. And so I'm putting 3 in each cluster, and I'm almost done here. I looked at some pieces that I had fussy cut for another layout, and they didn't end up looking right. But I am going to use these rub-ons, and they are kind of a rose gold, and I'm just going to put a few here and there. So I put Slow Down, and I'm going to put some little triangles, and they're going to kind of point to that top photo. So I just kind of tucked it behind that frame, and I'm not putting the whole line down because I don't want it to go that far out. So I just put down most of them. And I'm also going to put down the camera because I think it's really cute. So I just kind of put it to the right of Hello Sunshine there, and I'm using the back of my scissors to rub it down. They rub off pretty easily, so I use my finger on some of them. And then I just decide to add a few hearts to kind of finish it off. And after I add these hearts, that is going to complete this layout. At the very end of this video, I do pull out a bunch of embellishments that I think might go on this, but I don't end up adding anything else. I just finish with those little heart rub-ons, and I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. It was super fun. I love the stenciling, the way that looks. It's just really soft and pretty, and a great way to use cut files. So here are some close-up photos. If you have any questions, leave a comment in below, and I will try to answer that for you. And if you don't subscribe to the Hip Kit Club channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and we hope to see you here again very, very soon. All products are linked in the video description. Thanks so much for watching.